I'd like to introduce to you a band that you know and love. Come to you like the sound of equipment being thrown from a moving van, the sound of dead cell phones and oil rigs, the sound of empty parking lots and school buses. They love to live and live to love. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus Children of America, the White Stripes.
Hello, come on in. The water's great. My name is Ryan Schaap, and this is the hardest podcast to podcast. Only podcast covering the White Stripes, and we're doing it one song at a time. One song per episode. How the hell are you? I just brushed my teeth, so this fridge cig is going to taste disgusting. For the first time in the history of this show, let's have an instant reaction. Ugh. Didn't fake that one bit. That was disgusting. How's everybody doing? I hope you caught that reaction on in video on youtube.com. Username hardestpod2pod. I don't know where my brain went there. Those are allergies. I'm feeling great otherwise. Just came from a boxing class and a day off trip to Costco. So happy as a clam, to be honest. Exciting show this week. I mean, every episode is exciting, but this is a White Stripes song I've always been really fond of, really drawn to. More people need to know about Truth Doesn't Make a Noise. For such a high caliber song in their catalog and such a, for me, an important track off of Stijl. Like, this song doesn't appear a lot of places. It didn't appear live a lot either, but this is a song that is near and dear to old Ryan. So I'm excited to talk about it this week. I'm excited to talk to Gigi again, her third appearance. I gotta say, I got a lovely comment on Spotify from someone, I can't remember their name, who just really appreciated and really enjoyed my episodes with her. And just like that, I was like, I should ask her back. And that's how it all came together. So that is a really good way to help me get an idea of where we're going, a temperature check. And if there's somebody that you really like or somebody you didn't like, you can leave a message and help kind of, guide the direction of this show. Because I do love hearing from people, and whether you're a Patreon backer or just a regular listener or a viewer on YouTube, like, it ain't hard to influence me. If you say, somebody, I believe it was a patron, DM'd me and said, I'd really like to hear an episode on Boarding House Reach if you ever do it. And I was like, well, I've already wanted to do one, but now I really want to do one. And now, how polarizing it's considered, for good or for bad. Like, and I've been pretty vocal that I think it's bad, but I think the execution's very admirable, and just the brain starts spinning and you begin firing on all cylinders. So I love hearing from the listeners and from the viewers and our friends of the show. So keep doing that. Send me a DM, send me an email, Ryan@hardestpod2pod.com, or just slide into the DMs on our social channels, or leave a comment on Spotify or wherever. Like, I love interacting with the listeners, with our friends, and I love to hear when something is resonating well. I posted a clip on the Hardest, but that's a first. Posted a clip on the Hardest Pod to Pod socials, mainly Instagram and TikTok, of a moment I remember vividly. From 2005, the White Stripes are playing Berkeley. It's, to be honest, to be exact, it's August 13th, 2005. And I remember hearing about this in the forums on the Little Room. Shout out to all my Little Roomers. Back then, you would go on there to wait to hear, reviews or reports from fans that are at the show and like get an idea of the set list, because you had no idea what they were going to play at any given night. And I remember, 11 midnight or so, it comes out that there was a rowdy show in Berkeley, California, and There were beach balls thrown on. Jack was getting pissed off about that. And then they still play Boll Weevil. And Boll Weevil is traditionally the last song of the night. It was somewhat of a reward. I can remember hearing, I heard this anecdotally 20 years ago, so I'm probably wrong, but like, if it was a good show, they'd play Boll Weevil last. If it was, maybe iffy or the crowd wasn't bringing it, they'd likely finish with Seven Nation Army. So even with this crazy crowd, this crazy show, they play Boll Weevil. And as they're doing the sing-along of I'm Looking for a Home, some guy runs on stage and grabs the mic and yells, "Jack's looking for a home." Now, I have not heard that audio in 20 years, but it's burned into my mind. And I was poking around YouTube looking for bootlegs, looking for live fan recordings. But the clip starts right as he jumps the stage and he's left and Jack's, doing his spiel. If you haven't seen this or you don't know about this, please go to our Instagram or TikTok, Hardest Pod to Pod, and check it out. I did my best to caption it, but there's a couple of lines that he says in this distorted audio, pixelated digital camera point and shoot video. Like I still in my head will say like, how you like it, baby? I'm real scared, player. Like just Jack in a different element, in his element. I love it to death. And that clip popped off, and it's cool that I am using this white striped, this 2 decades of encyclopedic nonsense. I could have remembered things I learned in school, but instead I learned, intricate details of the Elephant and Get Behind Me Satan World Tour. All right. With that being said, I've mentioned Patreon, I've mentioned our social channels, I've mentioned you reaching out to me. Just go to hardestpodtopod.com. I'm not going to read off everything this week, but I love hearing from you. I love growing our footprint. And with growing our footprint, it's time for our call to action this week. What I'd like for you to do is hit pause on this podcast, go to your streaming platform of choice, ideally Apple Music or Spotify, go find 2000s to Style, and go to track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7? Wait, 3, 6. Track 8, maybe? Go find Truth Doesn't Make a Noise off Distill, and give it a listen. 1, because I think it's a forgotten song in the White Stripes catalog. And 2, we want it to be as fresh in your mind as it was in my mind and Gigi's mind when we discuss it. So do that, and then report back, because now it's time to talk to Gigi. Our guest this week is an excellent indie and alt-rock artist out of Washington, D.C., a dear friend of the show, and maybe one of our first celebrated guests in the Hardest Podcast to Podcast history. She has a new single out, Used to Love, which is a great play on words that feels a little Jack-coded, which I will ask her about off the top. And you can see her perform. If you're listening to this quickly, you can see her perform this week in Vienna and the DC area for the tremendous fundraiser Punk It Forward for Survivors.org. She is Gigi Marie. Gigi, welcome back. It's your 3rd time here. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling awesome. Thank you for having me back, Ryan. 3 times. This is kind of crazy. It's that magic number, right?
For this show, for this discussion, it is absolutely the magic number. But I say this a lot, and I do mean it very earnestly. Like the experiences I'm having and the people I'm meeting and engaging with on this little creative journey here is really special to me, and that includes connecting with you as many times as we have, and you can call it kindred spirits, but it's just people that appreciate the same things, and it might not be said. Everything we say might not sound the same, but the passion's there, and that's super easy to sink the claws into. And I appreciate talking to you, and I really enjoy it.
Thank you. That means so much to me. This has been an incredible experience. unexpectedness of it all, just the instant connection and being able to vibe with whatever the topic is, from the past two songs that we've discussed to now what we're about to discuss. I've always looked forward to it, and it's always been super fun. So thanks.
I got a good feeling there'll be a fourth and down the road, because it's good shit.
Thanks. Cool.
So getting prepared. I gotta say, used to love, play on words, means a couple things. Is there a true meaning, or are we taking the old listen, it's open to interpretation? Because both are kind of the same thing if you think about it.
Right. We never know where these ideas come from, and I don't know. I get absolutely astounded by some of the stuff that comes out of this brain. It's way more than I would ever, really think of. This song sort of spilled out of me probably within 5 to 10 minutes. I was just on this couch. I picked up my guitar. It wasn't plugged in or anything, and did what I typically do. I just, I was trying to practice. And when you start practicing and then other ideas spill out of you. That's what happened with Used to Love. And the lyric just sort of came to me right away when it was that idea of, everything I love is now everything I hate, sort of thing. I'm not sure how cliche that is. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's a more interesting take on it, but I'll leave that up to everyone else's opinion. But I just grabbed my phone and I recorded something raw. Like, seriously, just kind of wrote the lyrics down real quick on a notepad, pulled out my iPhone, audio recording thing, and just
our best
record
friend.
it for me. I mean, so that was a very quick song. A lot of my songs are, though. They just sort of spill out, and they're down on the page in like 5 minutes. So,
and and here we are talking about the White Stripes as artists, and they very clearly have a similar approach of, if if you can get it right, if you can get it with the first one, don't bother, just get it down, capture the magic. Is there do you find inspiration from that? Are you do you try to do the same thing? Because the more and more I hear Jack kind of beat that in over the years, and I'm like, it's just get it. If you can capture it the first time and it makes sense, roll with it.
Right. I mean, I think it helped that I didn't know what I was doing necessarily when I first started to write. I mean, I wrote my first song when I was probably about 11 or 12 years old. And it was only because a friend of mine had written a song and she played it for me on the piano, and something clicked in my brain, and I was like, oh, wait, you can just create your own music if you want to. And the next day, I mean, I think I pissed her off, but the next day I had my own song on the piano that I played for her. So that was well before any introduction to the White Stripes, unfortunately, or fortunately, because I think it allowed me to develop my own voice and a lot of where I come from, and being confident in the way that I write songs.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of just a certain type of artist, maybe one that is very natural and off the cuff and just bearing of the soul. I mean, not saying that I'm giving myself all that credit, but it's interesting that I really gravitated toward the White Stripes and then found out after the fact how quickly Jack writes, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't find that out until very recently-ish, probably in research for one of these previous podcasts. And, just that connection, like, oh, so I'm not the only one. Other people write like that, and it's okay. Like, it's not like I'm being a lazy artist.
Yeah.
It's kind of just what happens sometimes, and it can be the most magical when it happens that way.
I guess I'm a creative individual. I'm not a musician. I can play a guitar if need be. I have not written or attempted to write a song in many years, but when it comes to having to create something, I've always felt I'll give you a perfect example. Like a couple years ago, when my wife and I got married, we wrote our vows. I had a couple of ideas that I wanted to hit on that just kind of floated around, and I just, okay, I guess I need to write these now. And it's throw up on a page on a Google Doc, and maybe a couple of edits because I'm blabbing or rambling. But I'm like, do I need to go back and revisit these 15 times? Because I think, not brush a little dirt off the shoulders here, but it feels like I got what I'm looking for. And, it's, I don't know, maybe sometimes maybe we consider ourselves lucky that you can do that in a moment of creativity, and you don't get in your own way and try to make it better for the sake of making it better, or you believe in yourself enough that, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be good.
Absolutely. And I think that's so beautiful what you just mentioned about your wedding vows. And I feel like that's probably the purest form of when, you should have those moments when you're
Yeah.
expressing your love and your appreciation and your adoration for someone else. Like that's so goddamn beautiful, right? I'm just creating these weird stories. So, I mean, honestly, I think what you did was way cooler, Ryan.
Well, hey, I think we both think what the other one's doing is pretty damn cool, and that's why we're here today. The song is "Truth Doesn't Make a Noise." It's track 8 off to Stijl. This song has always stuck with me because it was the first song that it was the first time I knew somebody that liked this deep cut. And up until then, a good friend of mine, I was like, oh, do you like the White Stripes? Like, yeah, I like a couple of their songs. And when that happens, you think, okay, you like Seven Nation Army, you like Fell in Love with a Girl. And they go, I really like Truth Doesn't Make a Noise. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're not allowed, like normies aren't allowed to like that type of music. You're supposed to like the first half of the record. And not that maybe I was a little closed-minded too, but I remember going back, I'm like, oh, this is, the quiet stuff on To Stijl is just as important and just as impactful as the loud stuff. And ever since that little moment in passing, that just kind of like, I took so much away from realizing like I need to, have a better approach to this artist I really like. And like song one, first track to last track, there's a reason to listen to everything, and there's a reason that it's there. This was a bit of an eye-opening song for me in that there is a lot on these albums, and while the singles leap off, there's a couple of other things that might be a little more subdued, but they can hit hard. Going into this podcast, what was your thoughts on Truth Doesn't Make a Noise?
It's a lyric that always repeats in my mind from time to time. Ever since I heard it for the first time, probably like 7 or 8 years ago.
Sure.
Which is kind of wild. I know I'm on the ultimate White Stripes podcast. And when I say 7 to 8 years ago, people are probably like, huh? But it made an impact, and I think it just resonates. You think of these moments, or sometimes what maybe a friend says to you, or a scenario that you're in, and you think to yourself, well, you don't have to make it loud. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles to make your point, or to really allow people to know what's really going on. So that phrase is kind of, the lyric has been there for me throughout. I heard from the time that I heard it the first time and on through, I've always enjoyed that idea that you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to make the point.
I love that. I love that point, because typically the loud, in whatever industry or line of work you have, or just in experiences in life, chances are the person that is saying the most, or the person that is saying, I know what I'm doing, they're lying and they don't. And the people that do, or the people that know what's going on, they don't need to bombastically remind you. They just go about as business. But I like this song. I love this lyric because you can take it in so many ways, and you can also like, it means like, well, the truth doesn't make a noise, but lies and incorrect information is just louder, and that's what you're ambushed with. That's what people tell you, and the truth is just, the truth isn't as exciting or salacious as whatever we need to make up. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. The age old expression. And when I hear truth doesn't make a noise, just that lyric, which is outstanding, my mind immediately goes to, well, truth is quiet, lies are loud.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that goes along with maybe the persona behind whatever's being amplified. Um, and a type of individual who feels they need to sort of dominate or, impress upon you whatever their point is.
Yeah.
So I've really found that I relate quite a bit to the lyric too, because I don't know if I told you this story before, but a very good friend of the family is a music composer that people might be sort of familiar with. He wrote What a Wonderful World, and he was very dear to me, and he was, like I said, a friend of the family. And I remember being a kid and at my cousin's wedding, and because he and this gentleman had written some music together, he was there. And I happened to be, for some reason, not at the table near my parents. I was sort of at, I don't know, this extra table with a couple of cousins. And I was very young. I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. And I remember he was sitting next to me. And I was so shy. Like, I didn't know what to talk about with all these other adults. And I remember one of my mother's cousins was holding court at the table, and she was really making a show of herself. And, he turned to me at one point and he said, Gigi, sometimes the people who are the loudest in the room, you wish weren't. And sometimes you wish the people who are the quietest in the room, you wish would say more.
Yes.
And that always stuck with me. And then we started
yeah.
chatting after that, and then we became quite close. But I've related to this lyric tremendously, and the lyrics within the song itself. Because I don't think you have to be the one who is holding court. I don't think you have to be the one who always has the most brilliant answer or response or knows exactly what to say at the perfect time, right? It's okay.
I couldn't agree more. And there's so many variations of that, but like the earlier in life you learn that, the easy, things make so much more sense.
Right.
And because if you takes you a little bit longer to learn that, you kind of gravitate to some people that aren't the most genuine or aren't the most authentic. And just knowing like, just because they got a lot to say doesn't mean it's worth listening to all that much.
Absolutely.
And there's so much more. You could get a hell of a lot more out of the quiet people, or the people that are shy and reserved, or just don't feel like holding court or whatever. So yeah, you and I are getting a lot out of this song. I like this already. I keep referencing Jack White did a very good kind of long form interview with Mojo Magazine about in the year 2020 for the 20th anniversary of Stijl. And he had such a good line. He goes, with our first album, I'd have been too awkward to put in any emotional music. But when we were at home recording ourselves, I could do it for the first time. I can't think of a song. I don't know about you, but when I hear that and I think of the songs on Stijl, this is top of the heap for me. Of you're sharing an emotional song about a character, regardless of who might have inspired that character. But it's a bit of a gut wrencher as the song goes on, and they took that chance. Jack took that chance. Is this the most emotional, one of the most emotional songs on the record?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. And it made me think about the album title itself. And if you're willing to go on a bit of a journey with me, Ryan, I I don't know. People might say go touch grass, Gigi. I don't know after I go through this whole thing.
Yeah.
And maybe Jack or Meg have talked about this before and I just missed it. I'm not sure. But when you look back to the art movement itself, and I think about the house that Rayfeld was able to design,
Yeah.
um, and the woman he designed it for, Ms. Schroeder, who had just lost her husband. She had 3 children, and she was trying to establish a residence where her family could still feel that intimacy, kind of an open space for all of them.
Of course.
Then, because it was a smaller space, there was a way to, there were these doors that would fold out of the walls
Yeah.
to kind of enclose or modify. You probably know all about this already.
I don't know actually too much about this, so I'm enjoying this little journey. So carry on.
Awesome. So these doors would come out of the wall and you could sort of manipulate the space to make it what you want. So you could have a bedroom for each of the children and yourself by the end of the evening, or you could separate out just like the living room from the kitchen. It's super cool. And like, it's beautiful. You can lift a part of the roof and basically make your own open air, sunlight in the middle of the space. It's really gorgeous. And what a cool idea. And I was thinking about if, I don't know, Jack or Meg had been so inspired by this art movement, and especially this house that really encapsulated and was designed by one of the first people the people who created the movement, right? And you're creating this entire album within your own living space. And you have the flexibility, like you can move the walls if you need to. If you need time to continue working on a certain piece, you can say, hey, let's do this a few more times. If it's not working, let's save it till tomorrow night. Let's go to the grocery store or whatever it is, right? It becomes a part of your whole home dynamic, like that domestic life.
Of course.
You can manipulate the making of the album the way that Ms. Schroeder was able to manipulate her home for whatever purpose. And I think within that space and kind of that flexibility, there's this allowance to become more intimate, and you're not feeling pressed for time. Like you're not feeling like you have to give this tour de force in 3 hours that you have the studio booked because you need to move on and you need to be done with this and go to mixing or whatever it is, right? So they allowed themselves, I don't know, the flexibility of the movement itself.
They absolutely did. And what I love about that is, like, for such a simplistic art movement, the flexibility that it allows just creates endless possibilities. And there's just so much of it from something so primitive and so minimal, which I absolutely love. And I think that it really makes perfect sense with this album theme. And I think they did that. I think like what you kind of described is what they I don't know if they went out, they sought it, but that's what they received by recording it at Jack's house, which at this point was just Jack's house based on the timeline.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you something else, Ryan? Sorry,
yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
So I also am connecting something that might be obvious to other fans or to people who already know, or once again, maybe Jack's already spoken on this, but there is a certain art piece / furniture that was designed for that house.
Yeah.
And it's called the red and blue chair. And I was wondering, it's gorgeous. Like you need to look it up.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if, because the the white stripes always revolved around that red, white and black thing.
Yeah.
And then Jack going to his solo career has to do something, right? And I'm always wondering if it was like the other half of what he thought he could then go ahead and do. Yeah. And I'm sure people out there will be like, oh, it's just a primary color, Gigi, like duh, like whatever.
But when those three colors, are directly related to this art movement that the
Mhm.
artist is just so inspired by. Like, yes, it makes perfect sense that Third Man Records is yellow. It makes perfect sense the White Stripes were red. It makes perfect sense that Jack White was is blue.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, the Raconteurs are copper. Well, that's a band that Jack is a member of. It's not a kind of, it's not his brain on full artistic, display like the other ones are. So it that kind of makes perfect sense. And then when you think of the style movement, it's like, of
Mhm.
course he can't go with any other color but blue. It's perfect.
Right, and the whole, like, that it's this beautifully designed piece of furniture with the whole movement itself, and the idea that, I think a lot of the White Stripes music and Jack's work currently is almost like stripping everything down to
Oh
then
yeah.
sort of, like, build it back up, like
Yeah.
that whole upholsterer concept or whatever. Um, and I think he talked about that recently. I forget what interview that I happened to see today. Um, but, you've got this chair and it's just that's what it is. It's the frame. And I think
Yeah.
originally the designer only wanted it to be in the original beech wood,
Hmm.
and it was another designer's idea to go ahead and add the red and the blue. And, but that's it. I mean, it's very spare, and, people can take it for what it is, but it doesn't need to be, I don't know. Anyhow.
And that's so much of the style album, and what is so great about uh how it reflects the art movement. And you have songs like this that, it there's so much to this where there is, but in reality it's a pretty simplistic song. It's a pretty, um it's not too complex, but it's so powerful, much like the Primary Colors. There is something so just intense about them, because they are just that, they are primary colors. So if you just have this song of these primary elements, you have these lyrics that just, they are powerful and they gut you. And you hear the first few lines of this song, and you can immediately paint a picture and create something from it, which is exactly the whole point of the style art movement. Of like, here's a really primitive way of making art. Here are your elements. Let's see what you can do. And you know, Jack said it. He said in this interview, like they were nervous to. He didn't want to be emotional. He was awkward, and it was time to really take a chance. Like they were just a loud garage rock band, and they were gonna. They could have just kept putting out the same sounding album and been like another band in Detroit. But the style album is so important because there are so many things that get Jack and Meg out of their comfort zone, and really pushes them to the limits. And you were talking about that house that was designed, and how the flexibility and how versatile it is. Well, they decide to record this album in at Jack's house, and that winds up in his mind being a detriment, because it gave them too much time to fuss over things and spend there's no gun to the head clock ticking element. And he says that it doesn't work. It wouldn't work. They would never do that again. But what happens is, at this point of their career, they're still very nervous, or not nervous. They're still, the confidence is not there. They haven't fully figured out what this art project is in the White Stripes. And they kind of needed that home, that safeness, that this is where you can be comfortable and vulnerable. They needed to do that there so that they could capture that, realize that, oh, we have this in us. We have this raw emotion. We have this ability as a songwriter. We now have this confidence to do that again, but put us back in a studio where clock's ticking, time to get to work and see what comes out. Like, the style in so many ways is a perfect storm that connects the White Stripes' first album with White Blood Cells, and just creates this insanely dynamic band that has so many different avenues, that it's not just loud or not just emotionally charged or a generic rock band. And here we are talking about them 20 years later, just like the art movement.
Right. I mean, it's pretty incredible, the avenues they've gone down, right? What they
Yeah.
have been able to create, as a rock band. And it's funny, I kind of I relate so much to all of this because a lot of people are expecting one thing when they go to a show. You know, you're going to a rock show, you're going to hear a lot of loud music played really
Of
fast or
course.
whatever. But I almost think it's more punk and more rock to slow down, to go ahead and allow yourself those spaces where you can be more emotional, when maybe
Yeah.
you kind of toy with another genre. I've been inspired by a lot of opera, by a lot of musical theater,
Oh, hell yeah.
old standards from back in the day. So I think when an artist, like when the White Stripes, allow themselves that sort of flexibility, allow themselves that freedom, and have the confidence to really, I don't know, play and write what's in their heart.
Yeah,
That's why we've connected to it so much, because we see that honesty, talking about the truth of it all, and we sort of realize this is something authentic. They're not just putting this on because they think this is the style of the day. It's
exactly.
because this is what's in their soul, you know?
Well, and think about the, I don't know, the not the most popular, but like just the most significant parts of their catalog. You know, whether it's the songs they covered, like I Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself, or Jolene, or hell, their biggest song ever is a song that sounds nothing like them in Seven Nation Army. Um, they they're so good at taking all these chances, and it feels like they were hitting at a 90-95% success rate, which is pretty damn good for an artistic approach. But like, because of the style where they took these chances, they kept taking these chances to, hey, how can we get out what's in our heart, what we're feeling, what we want to create. um Maybe, fucking look at Conquest, the last song. Like, they never were afraid to do something that was different, because at the end of the day, when you see them live, it's still going to be passionate, it's going to be intense, it's going to be loud, and it's going to be special and just unique. And fuck, I'll keep coming back. Every line of dialogue in this podcast is going to me going, and it's just like the art movement because it allowed that. um, I want to talk about the lyrics on here because, I don't know. The first lyric in this song is "My baby's got a heart of stone," and I don't know about you, but when I heard that, maybe I would zone out for a bit, because I would be like, there is an individual with a heart of stone. That means they are a cold, or miserable person that cannot feel joy. When you hear that, line, "My baby's got a heart of stone," what is your first impression? And then in the whole kind of concept of the song, um, what does that stone entail? Why does she have a heart of stone?
Right. So I think the knee jerk reaction that I've certainly had is to say, oh, she's just cold and heartless, right?
Yeah.
But then when you think about it a moment longer, and I think about kind of my Catholic girl roots, there, that harden not your heart idea.
Yeah.
And I was looking that up to kind of, because it occurred to me when I was doing some research and trying to prepare for this, it occurred to me maybe I need to understand where that came from in
Yeah.
the Bible. And apparently it's from Hebrews 3:15. Yeah, Hebrews 3:15, New Testament.
Yeah.
And it's basically documenting how the Israelites had lost faith in God, essentially, because they were cast away. It seemed they were just wandering for so many years without any sort of reprieve, without any sort of real sustenance or
Yeah.
guidance. And it was just like, okay, so now what? Thanks, God. That sort of thing, right? And I was wondering if maybe an idea could be that idea of losing faith in someone, or losing
Yeah.
faith in people, human beings around you, the way that you're going to be viewed, the way that you're going to be accepted or not accepted. So you have to harden what used to be maybe so open and so joyful and so willing to be around other people and accept what other people have to say. Um, but it sounds like this character had to, in many ways, toughen up.
Yeah.
And it's because of whatever's happened. And I think it's really a losing faith in realizing that they have to go it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not too much that can be said about that. They just already know what they have to do.
Yeah.
I wonder.
I've become isolated. It's me against whatever my world looks like, and you know what? It'd be really nice to be able to open up my heart, but I gotta look out for me. And it's really easy to get taken advantage of when you show vulnerability. So I'm just not going to be able to do that at this point. And then first off, I love the deep dive because it perfect. You lose faith in people, so you lose faith in God, or you lose faith in just the important figures in your world,
Mm.
and so you toughen up. And I mean the following lyrics: "Can't you people just leave her alone? She never did nothing to hurt you, so just leave her alone." Like, now you have somebody, this isolated character that's just quiet and timid. They can tell, the narrator can tell by their actions, by the way they carry themselves, that there's um, just tiny little hands, quiver in her bones below are the signs of a girl alone, and it tells you everything you need to know, which is I love to death, because it's like truth doesn't make a noise, but if you open up your eyes, you can see that while this hardened individual that isn't spreading joy, or doesn't open up her heart to everybody, they're actually quite alone, and don't want to say broken, but just fragile, and doesn't have everything that they could have. And if you just opened up your eyes, instead of being like, oh, that person's a jerk, you kind of realize, like, oh, they're actually a little lonely, a little fragile, and could use somebody to be nice to them, to build up that trust, to warm up that heart and open it up again.
Mhm. Absolutely. And going along with that, having the narrator be someone who is so easily able to cut through and see what's going on,
Yeah.
that kind of soul connection that they must have to the individual they're trying to protect, maybe in a way, it sounds
Hmm.
like. The lyric of the quivering reminded me of, Rodgers and Hammerstein, The King and I. And
Yeah.
that song that Anna sings to, she sings it to her son as they're about to, go to Siam, and trying to remind them, each, yeah, we're going on this adventure and we might be scared. We don't know what's going to happen. But let's try and trick ourselves into not being scared. So even if
Oh,
we're
that's
shivering
great.
in our boots, let's try to pretend that we're not.
Yeah.
So when shivering in my boots, I strike a careless pose, and then nobody knows I'm afraid, right? So I was thinking about those lyrics, and it's so true. Like, we do that all the time. Like, as human beings, that's kind of the condition, right?
Yeah.
Um, when you don't want to have to face whatever it is, whatever negativity is being thrust upon you, whatever
Yeah.
people's critiques might be, or, whatever, you kind of want to be sort of nonchalant about it. You want to make sure that people don't see that it's bothering you. You want to make
Hmm.
sure that people don't get that satisfaction. And I think the character being sung of has been able to master the
Yeah.
art of basically saying, I'm not going to let this get to me. And
Hmm.
it so pains the narrator, though, because they know, right?
Yeah.
They know the behind the scenes. They know everything. They see it. They see the moments where maybe they are showing some vulnerability to them. They are actually seeing how painful it can be, how draining it can be. Um, you know,
But what I love about this song is a tale of two cities, or however you want to phrase it, because it starts off with the narrator being like, look at this individual, look how tough they got it, look how mean everybody is to them, look how they can't love. And then the second half is how the narrator is reacting. It's like how it affects them. And it's like, okay, well, you're like you're that hung up on them, or you're that just like invested in them, that like, you know, what you are seeing, you know, makes you want to tear apart the place. It fills you with rage. It just makes you so upset. Like, it's interesting of just like the pronouns, like the first half is, it's like, it's all about them. And then the second half is all about me. And, of just showing the impact of, how one struggles could have on other people, or the challenges that one person has. And I found that quite powerful, of just kind of listening back and forth, and you know what could represent.
Absolutely. Yeah, because what you're saying there, you can't ever really separate yourself out from someone you care so deeply about. Even though you want to maybe say it's their, cross to bear, like they're gonna have to deal with it themselves. Like there's only so much I can do. When you're in a situation where you want to make a difference for the other person, you want to somehow be a protector, which is kind of a theme that you see through a lot of White Stripes songs, that you want to be that strong person when someone else can't be as strong, or at least allow them that safe harbor. I don't know, when you feel like you can't be that person, you might want to just burn everything down. You might just kind of spiral out and kind of crash out about anything and everything, because you feel helpless and worthless, and like, what good is my caring going to do? Especially, I don't want to skip too far down in the lyric, but especially when the lyric is, you try to tell her what to do and all she does is stare at you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the added conflict in the whole scenario, and it's so like that, right? When you try to give a friend advice, or when you try to give a lover advice, but it won't really click until they're ready to either have it click, or until they also eventually agree with you. But really, it sounds like this person, the character's already made her choice. She, she knows at least she thinks she knows what's going to be best for her. And there's nothing you can do, which adds to that anger and the wanting to just destroy everything. And because it's the only thing you'd have power over.
I could not agree more. I think people, I think fans reading these lyrics would jump to a very easy conclusion that this song is potentially about a drummer in the band. I really, and that's come up. I can remember that's like, there's, fans have always had these ideas of what songs are about Meg, or what songs are about Jack and Meg. And I really agree with him where he says he doesn't write autobiographically. And I don't dispute that. And when you look at these lyrics, like, or you look at the stories that they tell as artists, like, I could see, like, the White Stripes are characters. Like, they are playing characters on stage and in media, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
The Jack and Meg on stage or on albums is vastly different than the Jack and Meg in real life. And we don't know those real life. Some people do, but you and I don't. So I think that this kind of, there could be inspiration in this song about the characters. And the way the protection, the safe harbor, the protectiveness of, like, standing up, and the silence. Jack's the loudest person, and Meg's the quietest. So I think that there is some inspiration here from the characters that they decided to create very early on. And man, I've for so long I listened to them talk in interviews or articles. It was like, oh, the characters that they play or the childlike approach to it. And I would just like that would go right over my head. And then when you kind of get a little older, you're like, okay, no, they're telling you right now that they are playing characters because they don't want to have their real selves on full display of like, hey, here's all of my vulnerabilities and what makes me upset and what makes me happy and makes me sad. So when I see these lyrics about the very shy, the very silent person, Meg's pretty tiny compared to Jack. I think there's some inspiration that comes from the characters that they create, they portray, but it ends there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like if you think that this is a portal into the dynamics of their, their relationship, you're unfortunately very incorrect.
Right. I totally agree, especially as someone who writes songs too. It's awkward sometimes. People who know me will ask me, "Wait, is this about this incident or like
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like that's not
Yeah.
like come on, things just happen. They just somehow emerge from whatever this mess is up here." And so I agree with you completely. I think we can't help but write about what we are aware of and what we know and what we've experienced. But is that about one particular person or one
Mhm.
particular thing? No, it's just such a cool amalgamation of mystery. So yeah, I agree. Like it would be
It's
way
just
too simplistic to say, "Oh, this is about Meg," or
yeah, it's like no, this is about this is a story somebody is trying to tell, and inspiration works in lots of different ways, and no, I don't I don't think Meg is going around Detroit with her tiny hands quivering and I'm like, I think she's pretty damn cool and can handle herself, and
Mhm.
based on everything I've read, that's the case. But just this is how inspiration flows. This is just how it works. Not everything has to make perfect sense. Not everything is black and white, or in this band's case, black, red, and white. Um,
But the raconteur says many shades of gray.
Outstanding. All right. This this song doesn't have much of a legacy. It doesn't have a it only appeared on To Style. It was they perform it on the Under Blackpool Lights DVD, but it's it's essentially an album track, and it's always kind of stayed that way. Um, it was only performed live 54 times, which is the 51st most all time. Well, that's a mouthful. And it was first performed June 13th, 2000 at Ralph's Corner in Fargo, North Dakota.
Wow.
And
Fargo. Oh my
hell,
goodness. They really toured everywhere.
so that performance, there's a DVD on the De Style 20th anniversary DVD, which I was watching and kind of keeping tabs on. So I'm going to make sure to have a clip of the first time they perform it.
My baby's got a heart of stone. Can't you people just leave her alone? She never did nothing to hurt you, so just leave her alone. The motion of her tiny hands and the quiver of her bones below are the signs of a girl alone. I tell you everything you need to know.
Because when you know it's the first time that they perform it, you can really see it. Like Jack is really, I don't know if have you clued in on how Jack kind of communicates with Meg on stage?
Yeah, so I saw it in one of the videos you sent me where after they finished the song, he kind of walked over and she nodded her head. Like
Yeah.
he must have said something to her and she's like, okay. And then they go off.
Yeah, and it's not even they'll say things to one another, but like when it comes time for Meg to play a softer beat, Jack kind of looks over at her and like does this, like pulls the guitar neck up and down and like, okay, now we're taking it easy. Especially in this case, because it's the first time they've played this song live. You can play it as many times as you want to record an album, but or practice it. But when you're in the thick of things and you're playing it, when you're at Ralph's Corner to a capacity crowd, like you don't know how, it becomes very real.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope you'll check that one out, because it's just, I love looking at them around the year 2000, where they're getting some notoriety and they're getting a little more comfortable as musicians, like with the music from Stijl, but they're still not quite there on stage. And something clicks around White Blood Cells, where it's like we're a two-headed machine that can just we know what to do and how to do it, and
Right.
it's
It was
great watching them just evolve.
absolutely, it was very charming to watch one of the videos from 2000, you sent me. It was kind of like a padded wall was in the background.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of a DC venue we have around here called The Pocket, but I don't think it was that. There was nothing in the description. But you see just how tentative. I can't believe I'm using
Yes.
this for Jack White, but just how he was approaching this song with, he wasn't as gung-ho as I've seen him in the past when it comes to like any song, whether it's more emotional and quieter or just, Seven Nation Army. So I was really touched by that. It was
Yeah.
very endearing to me and very relatable and cool that they were able to go from that, where I also noticed he was playing around with lyrics, which
Yeah.
I can sometimes do. And then I'll walk off stage and my drummer, like Ryan, will be like, "What was that?" And I'll be like, "I don't know. I was trying some stuff out."
Yeah.
Because you've recorded at this point, they've recorded and they have out Truth Doesn't Make a Noise.
Yeah.
But you can see how in that 2000s performance, he ends up adding, I Know That I'm the Boy She Needs.
Oh.
He repeats that like twice before he goes into the last chunk of, before he goes into You Try to Tell Her What to Do.
Yeah.
And that to me was so adorable, because I know I've definitely played around with lyrics that way too. And it was very cool to see such a legend at that stage trying things out. Not that he still doesn't try things out all the time,
Yeah.
but you see that more vulnerable side of it.
You also said like tentative is the perfect way to describe the band in this era. But to have the confidence, you may be tentative, but you have the confidence in your art that like, I kind of want to change things up and just see how this feels or see how they respond to that. So like a tentative, it's wild that the White Stripes were a tentative yet confident band.
It can be possible.
It is.
It really can.
I also, when that lyric, it makes me think that was kind of, at some point, it was rattling around in his head that maybe that could have been one of the lyrics and maybe it just didn't fit, but it kind of stuck with him. And so what better place to let the world know than just live when you feel like it.
Absolutely. And also you sent me
the lyrics,
a picture of, I think, the original handwritten lyrics.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out what had been crossed out.
Oh,
and I was like, I wonder, is one of the words relatable? Like one of them.
Oh yeah. Is it like all the signs of the girl alone lyric?
Yeah.
And it's got a word
like
that starts with R.
Being alone. So then I was wondering, is this person who's singing really able to, has been in this person's place, knows absolutely what's going on, and is so angry that this is happening to that individual because they know what it's like. They've been there. Yeah.
And then also when it's like when the individual knows that what the other is going through because they've been there, it just becomes that much more like, I really want to help you. I know what path you're going down. And that
absolutely.
That seemingly never seems to work in your favor.
It really should though, right? Like I have the information, I have the keys, just take them. But yeah, it never works.
So The song was last performed in 2007, one of their final shows, July 27th at the Grand Opera House in Delaware, Wilmington. And I thought that's kind of where it ended, because Jack's never performed this song as a solo artist, and that's fine. It's definitely a White Stripes song. But I had no idea that this song stuck with him until all this time. Because when he was, I forget the interview, but he was talking about the No Name album in 2024. And he goes, sometimes you write these things down and you think, oh, I like that, but I don't even know what it means exactly. I think I know what it means. And those are the wonderful things that can keep feeding you for a long time, he says. This is all coming from a song I wrote 25 years ago called The Truth Doesn't Make a Noise. And he goes, I didn't realize how much I said those words until I was mixing the record, but themes of truth and trust occupy his attention and flash throughout the lyrics of his fiery new album, No Name. Jack also finally said, it can't be anything but the state of the world now, the state of the internet now, the state of pop culture now, and how fragile and disposable truth has become. But that's my guess. It wasn't sitting down and intending to say that. It just comes out, and you just try to get out of the way. And that was him on revisiting the themes of truth doesn't make a noise.
Yeah.
I had no idea that No Name was inspired or conveyed similar themes as Truth Doesn't Make a Noise, because I really love No Name as an album. And I truly love Truth Doesn't Make a Noise as probably a top 10 White Stripes song. But it's really, really cool that this is bouncing around in his head 25 years later. And whether it's the same meaning or an evolved meaning or another interpretation, it's the perfect catalyst to share what he's feeling about a pretty dark time in this country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it was a balm for the soul when it came out. It still is. Like, I love that album so much. There's so much I have read into that album. We could have a totally different podcast series just on No Name, because
bonus episode, clearly.
I mean, the whole No Name of it all, like, why that title?
Oh.
And I've always thought about Arthur Miller and how when he was, taken in front of the House Un-Americans Acts Committee, how he was questioned, I think, was it close to 40 or 50 times? He was asked the same question. Will you give the names of other people who were a part of the,
sure,
whatever it was, the Communist Party that you attended or these meetings that you attended? And he simply stated, I will give no name. And when you think about just the richness of that, for me at least, as an English lit lover, I read so many books, and I just love, especially a lot of what's based on modern history.
Sure, right? Yeah, of course.
When I saw that title, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a cool concept. And I know it probably has nothing to do with anything I just said, but politically and just the social feeling of what was bubbling and what's still bubbling and what is like now lava flowing at this point, it just made so much sense to me, and I loved it so much. Truth and the authenticity of the individual, the integrity of the individual is under such fire and question these days.
Yep.
I love that it's all connected. All connected. New York telephone.
These are listen, you can second guess these big brain ideas, but you've summed it up perfectly. And they align with the inspiration that Jack White has in his lyrics, like, whether American history or old films or biblical verses, like you've connected the dots very well and in a way that makes a lot more sense than any way I could have.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Wow.
So I'm going with it because yeah, I mean, it's no name. Like I always think back to my episode I did maybe a month or two ago on There's No Home for You Here, where it's like, this song sounds exactly like Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground. Well, yeah, it is, but it's track 3 on Elephant. Deadly, it's there for a reason. Whether for whatever reason, there is a purpose for that. No Name on paper sounds like the laziest thing to name an album next to Untitled. Nothing is lamer than when you see an artist that has a song on the album called Untitled. To the untrained eye, the untrained on Jack White eye, you see No Name, it's like, well, he couldn't come up with something. But it's like, no, there's a reason why it's called No Name. There's a reason why the songs are on there. There's a reason why the artwork looks like that and was helped by his kids.
Mm-hmm.
You got to find that reason, or you got to look for enough breadcrumbs to come up with your own little theorem and your own little scheme, and that's what you've done. And I'm immediately gonna agree with you and just ride your coattails.
Cool. Welcome aboard.
As we wrap up, because this has been an outstanding conversation, next time you listen to Truth Doesn't Make a Noise, what's going to be rattling around in that big brain of yours?
Trying to connect more to the recent work and the recent album. And, just the power of creating stories and allowing people the chance to step inside another world for a minute and puzzle things out. That's kind of what I'll be thinking about. Absolutely.
Okay. That was Gigi. I'm Ryan and Gigi. And that was a key track off The Stijl. Ah, crap, I forget. Okay, let's go over it really quickly in the credits as the music plays. We've done Pretty Good Looking. We've done Hello Operator. We've done Apple Blossom, Bound to Pack It Up. We've done Truth Doesn't Make a Noise. We've done Let's Build a Home. We are chipping away at The Stijl. We'll be back next week, too, with a song that won't be on The Stijl. But I hope you enjoyed tonight. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. I hope you're having a great time. And if you're not, things get better. And if you're not, in this song, this episode made you put a smile on your face for a little bit, for a quick moment, I'm really happy it did. The Hardest Podcast to Podcast is hosted and produced by me, Ryan Schaap. Artwork by Catlin Likely. Amanda Schultz is our assistant editorial producer. And Mike Noble is our Gato. There's a book on my desk called Tokyo Junkie. Good night, everybody.